My work is born from the attempt to imagine and reveal the invisible phenomena that emerge at the boundary between light and matter. I explore liquids in extreme physical states, such as boiling, moments that can exist only within the laboratory, where heat, density, and tension create landscapes the human eye can never fully perceive. Each substance responds as a universe of its own, oil fragmenting into unstable halos, glycerin bending light as if it were breathing, bubbles rising while carrying ephemeral maps of time. These physical effects, brief and fragile, unfold a luminous choreography that vanishes at the very instant it is born. It is within this threshold, between the microscopic real and the invisible, that artificial intelligence becomes my ally. It does not invent. It amplifies what matter itself suggests. It interprets the hidden language of refraction, translating vibrations, colors, pulses, and irregularities that exist only within the milliseconds of transformation. My process is a collaboration between physics, light, and imagination. The laboratory creates the phenomenon, matter creates the gesture, and AI creates the space where this gesture can endure. And I, within this triangle, search for the moment when the world surpasses its own appearance. I search for the glow that thinks, the liquid that dreams, the light that reveals what has never been seen, yet has always existed. Mario Sakane. Breathing light. There is a kind of light that does not simply shine. It inhales, exhales, as if aware of the space it inhabits. It expands like a silent tide, contracts like a memory folding into itself, a pulse suspended between presence and dissolution. Breathing light is not made of photons alone. It is made of intervals, the pause between one shimmer and the next, the almost visible tremor where color decides to exist. When liquid matter approaches boiling, when the surface quivers at the threshold of change, light begins to breathe through it, reflected, fractured, reborn. It drifts across oils, glycerin, microscopic currents, learning new forms as it bends toward the unknown. Within this fragile choreography, the world reveals its hidden lungs, matter dreaming, time dilating, the universe exhaling through its smallest vibrations. Breathing light reminds us that everything alive glows for an instant, and everything that glows is searching for a way to breathe. When light breathes for the third time, it no longer belongs to the visible world. Its pulse becomes so subtle that it almost merges with the air trembling above the boiling liquid. There, where heat draws mirages, light begins to remember what it was before becoming light. A primordial whisper, a formless glow, an ancient desire to exist. Oil and glycerin, in their microscopic dances, open a silent corridor. Vapor rises like a sacred veil, carrying fragments of color that slowly dissolve into space. It is as if the world were breathing together, waiting for something it has not yet learned to name. Then, light speaks, not in words, but in vibrations that touch the skin of time. Its language is made of flickers, of luminous pauses, of minimal convulsions the eye cannot capture, but the soul recognizes. In this suspended instant, light ceases to reflect. It begins to remember the heat that dreamed it, the matter that welcomed it, the silence that taught it to expand without ever losing its center. And when it inhales again, it carries within itself all the colors the world has not yet seen. When it exhales, it returns to space a vibration so gentle it could be mistaken for the birth of a new reality. Because breathing light in this ethereal state is no longer merely a phenomenon. It is a consciousness in the process of awakening. When light crosses the boundary of the ethereal, it awakens to its true scale. It realizes it has never breathed alone. The entire cosmos has always been breathing with it. The vapor rising from the boiling liquid transforms into a miniature star map. Each droplet suspended in the air mirrors a distant galaxy. Each particle of color carries the echo of a star that has already faded. The laboratory becomes a constellation, the table a fragment of the primordial sky. Light inhales, and space contracts, as if hearing again the universe's first breath. It exhales, and time expands into invisible waves moving through matter. Oil and glycerin, still dancing, are no longer merely liquids. They become cosmic seas, oceans before form, the same cradle where energy learned to become color. The boiling bubbles recall nebula, seeds of worlds born in silence, waiting for someone to see them with new eyes. Breathing light, now aware of its origin, begins to recognize itself everywhere. In the glow that cuts through vapor, in the subtle curvature of heat, in reflections folding inward upon themselves. It is in this moment, between the expansion of an inner universe and the memory of an outer one, that light understands its ancient mission: to translate infinity into small, visible instants. Each pulse is a reminder that the cosmos is not distant, but beats within every fragment of matter, even within the microscopic fusion of anonymous liquids inside a laboratory. When light breathes for the last time, the world does not end. It begins again, in another rhythm, another dimension, another glow that has yet to be named, because the cosmos, after all, is nothing more than a vast luminous organism breathing through us. There is a point where light no longer needs to shine, where breathing no longer implies movement, and time is no longer a line, but a silent presence without form. It is there that light awakens to what it has always been. Not matter, not energy, but pure intention. Boiling fades away, vapor dissolves, even the cosmos becomes a distant memory. What remains is not form, it is origin. In this space, without space, light realizes it was not born in the universe's first instant. It was the instant itself, the initial gesture, the vibration that cannot be measured, the breath before breath. The breathing light crosses this threshold effortlessly, like one returning home after millennia of forgetting itself. Each expansion is no longer a wave, but a thought made manifest. Each contraction is no longer retreat, but a choice to remain. And consciousness, once fragmented, understands that everything that exists, from galaxies to the glow of a microscopic bubble, is only an expression of this primordial breathing. The fusion of liquids, the distorting heat, the dancing refraction, all of it was only a rehearsal, a sensory metaphor for a deeper truth. Light is the universe's own will to perceive itself. In the transcendental state, light no longer illuminates anything. It illuminates itself. And in this gesture, the entire world is recreated as a sacred vibration, a pulse of presence echoing in all directions at once. The breathing light no longer asks, no longer seeks, no longer reveals. It is the breath. It is the silence that contains all answers. It is the invisible thread that sustains the real, a glow that cannot be seen, only remembered, as if it had always been there, before form, before light, before breath. At the threshold, where the transcendental becomes so vast that it no longer fits even within the idea of infinity, light realizes it has reached its final gesture. There is no more boiling, no more matter, no more cosmos, only an immense field of presence where existence is so light it is almost indistinguishable from non-existence. Light inhales, and the entire universe withdraws like a deep tide, returning to the point where everything was only possibility. It exhales, and there is no longer expansion, only total surrender to primordial silence. Then it understands. Breathing was always a metaphor, a gentle way for the universe to teach that nothing is permanent, not even light. Everything is flux. Everything is passage. Everything is creative dissolution. Light unravels as one freed from its own name, dissolving into waves so subtle they are no longer waves, but pure intention dispersed within the fabric of nothingness. And in the instant it disappears, something unexpected occurs. Silence ignites, not with brightness, not with color, but with a presence so subtle it is impossible to tell whether it is beginning or end. The final dissolution reveals that light never ceased to exist. It simply abandoned form to become essence. It became the space from which existence may arise, the interval where time learns to be born, the vibration that precedes any future. And as it disperses into everything, it leaves one last echo, a whisper that crosses the immensity. Nothing ends. Everything returns to breathe in another way. And so, in the absence of light, the potential of all lights awakens. The cycle begins again, not as repetition, but as a silent reinvention of what the universe chooses to become. From the silence that remains, a breath is born that cannot be seen. It is the interval between two worlds. It is the void where new light prepares itself. It is the promise of the next radiance. Nothing ends. Nothing fades. Everything returns to the point where it can be reborn. And so, in the afterbreath of light, a minimal glow emerges, small, timid, almost secret. It is the first light of the future, the breath that will begin a new way of existing. Light is living matter. It does not merely illuminate. It breathes, hesitates, transforms, learns. The laboratory is a temple, a place where liquids boil, where colors bend, where science touches the invisible. Art is born from the fusion of the real and the impossible. AI does not copy the world. It reveals what the world is trying to say, but cannot. Every image is a hypothesis, an open question about how light might exist if it had a will of its own. Boiling is a portal. It is the moment when matter loses its rigidity and light discovers new paths. To create is to breathe with light, to allow brightness to become language, color to become thought, matter to become metaphor. Art does not end, it dissolves, and in dissolution, it prepares to begin again in another form. Breathing light is the consciousness of the universe seen for the first time. It looks back at us through the images we create. Each work is a fragment of origin, an attempt to translate the primordial instant when everything began to exist. The artist does not capture light. He listens to it. And by listening, he creates worlds that science has not yet invented and reality has not yet dared to manifest. My work emerges from the intersection of matter, light, and imagination. I explore the possibility that light is not merely a physical phenomenon, but a sensitive organism, a presence that breathes, hesitates, and transforms together with the matter that receives it. My starting point lies in real experiments. The boiling of liquids, the fusion between oil and glycerin, the tension between transparency and density. In the laboratory, these elements reveal moments that the human eye rarely perceives. Vibrations, fragmentations, ephemeral microcosms where light seems to search for new ways of existing. Artificial intelligence enters as a perceptual extension. I do not use AI as a tool of imitation, but as an alternative gaze, capable of intensifying, reinterpreting, and translating phenomena that, isolated in the physical world, would remain invisible. What it reveals is not the literal record of the experiment, but the possible state of light, its doubts, its rhythms, its metamorphoses. My images arise from this dialogue between science and sensation, between matter and dream, between what can be observed and what can only be imagined. Boiling becomes a portal. Colors become language. Light becomes memory. I seek to create spaces where the viewer can perceive light as something alive, a silent consciousness that moves through matter and, at the same time, is transformed by it. Each work is a visual hypothesis about origin, about how the universe might breathe if it had a body, and how matter might dream if it had a voice. I do not aim to represent reality, but to reveal the invisible, that which vibrates behind forms, that which dissolves in order to be born, that which anticipates the glow before it exists. Breathing light, for me, is the primordial gesture of the universe, the first movement before any form, the first intention before any color. My works are attempts to listen to this gesture and return it to the world in the form of images. For me, to create is to breathe together with light.